Right. It makes sense. However, we know that from history that most people who go on the show wildly overvalue their company.
Well, that's true, and I didn't think that we wildly overvalued. It was definitely higher than some valuations, but wildly overvalued is you've made $1,000, you have no marketing plan, you haven't proven that there's actually a market there, and you're saying you've got $1 million valuation.
Right. I agree with you. I agree with you. So, as fans of the show know that deal or no deal, there's almost always some kind of an impact on the business. Right?
Yeah, quite. Yeah.
And for you, it was a good story.
Oh man, it's been great. To say that Shark Tank has made us, I can't say Shark Tank made us rich because we won't be able to say that till we've cashed out, perhaps. But Shark Tank has dramatically accelerated the growth of our business. One of the things that happened soon after we taped the show, we ended up hiring our chief product developer, who is the former head of global product design for Crocs. He's got 35 years in the footwear industry. Wow. The guy is a big player. Our manufacturers agents got really serious about us. We have 4 new products that we're launching in the next 9 months. We've got some people working with us on the internet side that I would normally no way have access to. We're not quite at their level, but they've come in and are moving things dramatically. So a year from now, I imagine we're going to be looking back at today and just going, wow, I can't believe that happened. And it was in very large part from the Shark Tank effect.
And I suspect that a similar bump happened on the rerun?
Amazingly, almost like 80–85% in terms of revenue, with about a third as much traffic. So way fewer people watching. Wow. A lot of people who said they saw us in February and then saw us again in June. So seeing it again kind of put them over the whatever it would be, the hump, to give us a call or get online. But yeah, it was tremendous. If we were 4 months further along, maybe 5 months further along, it would have probably gone twice as well, because we know the objections that people have to our product. We know the problems. It's not that the product has problems. We have 40,000 plus people who love what we're doing, but because what we're currently selling is mostly a do-it-yourself kit, there's some people who find that a little intimidating, and they just don't want to go there. We have cracked that code, and we have a new product coming out that solves that for people. And there's some things on the website where it's not as, we don't tell the story as well as we could. We don't give people a clear enough path. There's a lot of things that we're doing right now to really improve the business that, had those been in place, I imagine we would have done twice as well.
Okay, I estimate that the show, you probably were on air almost like 15-minute segment. Was that how long you were on?
7.5.
It was 7.5 minutes. And how long did it take? How long were you in front of them? How long did that entire go from beginning to end?
We're not sure. It gets a little surreal when you're in there. Lena thinks 20, I think 45.
I suspect it's probably closer to 45.
I think, I of course agree with you, because that's what I think. But I don't know. I don't know.
Any things that you remember saying that you wish were aired?
If there were, I am legally not allowed to tell you.
Oh, okay. And so then likewise, did you think that the objective was to try and make you sound and appear a certain way that you didn't think was true to you, or?
I'll tell you one of the things that happens with the show. You walk out of the tank and you are overwhelmed with the realization that you don't know what the hell just happened, and it could be edited to look like anything. And you spend the next period of time, from some number of days to some number of months, playing the woulda, shoulda, coulda game. It's like, oh, if I'd only said this, if I'd done this, if I'd done whatever. And the only thing that keeps you, or kept us from really going crazy as a result of that, is knowing that no matter what we had done, they could edit it to make it look like whatever they want it to look like. So that's a little anxiety-provoking, especially when it really hits you that the show is called Shark Tank, not Stephen and Lena Tank. So no matter how well we did or didn't do, they're not going to make us look better than the stars of the show for example. I mean, they might, but we didn't think that that was likely. And that really kind of hit us like, what did we just, wow. And so for months, we were a little anxious about how it was going to look. The simplest thing I can say is that we're thrilled with the edit that we got. The fact that they came out and did what they call the home package, the little bit with us around Boulder First, was great because it gave us an uninterrupted opportunity to tell the story of our story and the product story. We were really grateful for that. Given everything that happened, I literally can't imagine they would have done it. It could have been better. I mean, I can imagine, but the odds of that happening are zero.
I thought it was a really good episode. I enjoyed your piece. Again, from my perspective, many times people go on there and it's half-baked. You were fully baked.
When you say that to someone who's living in a state that has legalized marijuana, that has a whole different set of meanings. I don't even do this stuff. But, well, I mean, the thing, I'll say it this way, what made Lena and I different than many of the people who appear on the show is that we were not desperate. We knew what we wanted, we knew why we wanted it, but we were confident we could keep going regardless. And we weren't, I don't want to say that other people were dumb, but I'll say, you know, we weren't dumb. We weren't oblivious to how business works. We weren't oblivious to just the simple things about our business. I mean, we knew the numbers inside out, backwards, left, and right, not because we prepared them just for the show, but that's just what we do. So, you know, we're to a certain extent, we know what we're doing. Now, that said, every entrepreneur and I say to a certain extent because every entrepreneur that I know wakes up in the morning going, I am totally faking this. And, you know, every day is yet another day of things that show up that you have no idea how to handle, and you just have to figure them out.
Yeah, and let's face it, one of the facts that we all know that's been publicized more than we care to know and care to read is that so many businesses fail that get started.
One of my father's friends, one of our good friends growing up, founded what became a multi-billion-dollar company, retired when he was very young after selling it. And when I started my software company, about 3 or 4 years in, I was home for, I don't know, like a holiday or family event or something. And this gentleman who had started a number of businesses, but, you know, that one was the biggie. And then after that, he'd been a VC, he'd done a lot of investing. He came up to me literally with tears in his eyes, and he said, you have no idea how many people have tried to get to where you are right now. And it was the first time, given how on a daily basis you're always just putting out fires and worried about this and that and the other, I had never taken the opportunity to realize how rare it is. Not that I'm, you know, doing this, but just like it's a rare phenomenon to get to a point where you're 3 years in, 4 years in, 5 years in, 10 years in, and you've got a viable entity. You know, it's a big deal. I'm not saying it's about me. I'm saying that for anyone, and even if what you've created is not some huge multinational blah, 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 if it's paying your bills, if it's feeding your family, if it's employing some other people who are getting to pay their bills and feed their family. I did the math once on my software company and realized there was like, I only employed like 10 people, but there was 200 people who were feeding their family as a result of that company. It's really an honor. It's, you know, whether it's just you or if it extends out, it's not to be taken lightly. It's a big deal.
No, I agree with you. I agree. And that's the reason why what I love so much about your story and what we've talked about so far is the sheer amount of investment you and your wife have made in understanding your business so it can be successful. It didn't just happen by mistake.
Some parts of it happened by mistake, let's be clear. You know, the confluence of factors that kind of put themselves together that led here. But once we saw that it was that we had 6 months into starting the business, we had the former lead designers from Nike and Reebok sitting at our kitchen table, conference room table, and for past purposes, designing product for us and giving us a business plan and sort of laying out the whole picture. And when they left, Lena came up to me and she goes, I'm all in. It was at first just a fluke and an accident, and so much was luck and fate and chance. But at a certain point, and it still continues to be, the fact that we got on the show is a big example of that. At the same time, we're doing everything that is within our control, everything that we can do on our own within the things that make sense to us. We're doing it this way and not this way. You know, we're not out trying to raise $100 million and then cross our fingers that we don't burn through it before we make money. We're doing it differently. So you know, I mean, you said it right. We're putting everything we have into it. I think the best way to say it is, you know, the gun went off when we started the race.
And so let's talk about the formation of your business. I noticed that you're the CEO, but your wife is actually the owner.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about it. Obviously, that makes you a woman-owned business.
Yes, makes me woman-owned. That's correct.
And it makes you woman-owned as well. Yes. And so, okay, I'm married 30 years. Okay, so I'm woman-owned as well, but in a very different method, a different approach. But the point being, talk about. Have you realized any benefits from that? Have you gotten certifications? Have you done those types of things?
No, we should, and it's been on our list of things to do, and I think every entrepreneur will tell you, here's the list of things they know they should do, and here's the amount that you can actually get done on a daily basis. In fact, we had someone who was going to help us with a bunch of women-owned business certification and grants and all these things, who disappeared off the face of the planet, happily, right before we sent her a big check with a lot of zeros at the end of it. So we haven't really taken advantage of that, and just to let you know the story, the reason why was accidental at first. Namely, I had my software company was involved in a legal issue with another entity, and while we were clearly in the right and we in fact won the case, you never know, and we just wanted to, so we structured, once we realized this was a real entity, we put it in its own corporate structure and we kept it separate for asset protection reasons. Colorado's a state where it doesn't really matter in terms of marital property, and I can't for the life of me. Everyone says, well, imagine the worst case scenario. It's like, I'm not leaving her. I don't think she's planning on leaving me. So while I get that whole story, for us, having this business has brought us so much closer together. We found out that we were a really, really good team. That was news and surprising in a certain way. So we're not worried about that part, and even if it was an issue, the state takes care of that part, and we like the women-owned thing, and we hope to take advantage of that at some point.
One of the things I noticed, and you talk about it, being and running a small business, it's really a lifestyle issue. and I noticed that the folks who work in big corporations, and there's nothing wrong with working in a big corporation if that fits you, but I noticed that there is a certain type, and it is a lifestyle that is quite different from working in a corporate environment. Yeah,
I've never had a job. I've never had a thing where I did something, someone handed me a paycheck. I was there from, this hour to this hour, and then it was over, and I didn't have to think about it in between. One of our employees, our senior sales manager, actually came up to me and he said, I'd sent him an email at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he noticed that. And he says, the fact that you are woken up in the middle of the night and do things is very comforting and reassuring to someone like me, who's frankly banking his livelihood on you. I said, I appreciate that. I just have a fantasy of getting some sleep one of these days. So, but it really is. It's interesting because there's some people I know who are trying to create lifestyle businesses where they're outsourcing everything, and there's some products where that's easier than others. But when I look at what they're doing, it's fascinating because while they have created nice little lifestyle businesses where they're taking in some money without doing a lot of work themselves, they are hamstringing their growth, and they're leaving so much on the table when they do that. I say, well, good for you. That's all fine, but frankly, my exit plan is not to be making $100,000 a year without doing a lot of work, but I still have to oversee it, and it might fall apart, and the universe might change. I mean, our exit plan is a big exit, which you're never going to do if you're just jobbing the whole thing out and not really in there. Now, I know someone's going to give me an example where they've done that, but it's rare that it happens that way.
That's not the norm. That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So you know what? I was noticing that 10%, is it 10% of every pair of Zero shoes you sell get donated to the Tarahumara Children's Hospital Fund? How does that work?
Not quite. We're in the process of changing that because our product line is changing and we haven't figured out how to do the math yet. But the way it is now is we take 10% of the profit from our custom-made shoes, which we take the kit and then someone will trace their foot, send that to us, and we'll make a shoe that fits them perfectly. So we take 10% of that and donate that to the Tarahumara Children's Hospital Fund to help support the people who were a big inspiration for us. And we've donated I'm not sure. Somewhere around $12,000–13,000 so far. We would love to be doing more. We'd love to expand our philanthropic reach beyond just the Tarahumara to other indigenous tribes where they have a history of barefoot minimalist running, and not just running. The philanthropic piece is important to us. It's not our business model. It's not like Tom's. That was the inspiration, but it's something that's very important to us. Back in the days when we were retired, we took a significant percentage of our income and we're donating that to charity. Not for any specific moral, philosophical, religious reason. Just that it seems like, I mean, we just really enjoyed it, and to be totally candid, it's really fun. Like for a while, we were giving away $1,000 a month to whatever we could find that seemed like they could use some help, and we literally would just wait and see what showed up in front of us. And so one day, we're in one of those Humane Society trucks where there's dogs and cats and you can go adopt them. And as we're leaving, we said, "Do you guys take donations here?" And they said, "Yeah, I guess." And so we wrote them a check for $500 and folded it up and handed it to them, and we walked out. And when the door of the mobile home closed behind us, we hear, "Oh, Bill!" You know, a friend of mine managed a multi-billion-dollar charitable organization, and he says, if you give someone $1,000, you're now in the top 0.5% of donors. Very few people do that, and we really enjoyed being able to make a difference. And we would often do it anonymously or refuse to take anything back from it because I don't need a thing. That's why I'm giving you my damn money. Helping people is nice. It feels good.
That's right.
Totally selfish. We do it totally because it feels good.
And that's one of the nice things about your product.
Oh, I got to tell you, if you have an opportunity to go into a business where you get emails every day from people saying that you've changed their lives, I highly recommend it because it makes the difficult part of doing business much more palatable.
So just a couple of wrap-up questions. One of them is, what is the biggest challenge that you face, your company faces right now? What kind of challenges are you facing?
I'll answer it two ways because you said me or your company. The one personally is literally just what does it take to get from where we actually are to where I imagine it in my brain, and how we do that in the appropriate timeline. Lena will sometimes say to me about some marketing venture or some idea, we're not there yet. We're not ready to do that yet. And in my head, we should be. So that gap, filling that gap, crossing that chasm, title of a book, which I don't like, that keeps me up at night. It's like, is there something I'm forgetting? Is there something else I could be doing? How do I get there to the best of my ability and the best of the ability of the people that are working with us? From a corporate standpoint, we're at a phase where growth could really start to dramatically accelerate. We're starting to move into retail in a big way. We're opening up some new distribution channels in a big way. And so, not surprisingly, we need working capital. And the money situation in this country is tight right now. Banks are frustrated because they're being told that they need to lend out money, but they're given restrictions where they can't do it under anything but the most ridiculous constraints. So we go to a bank and they go, well, if you need X number of dollars, do you already have another job, not your actual business, that's already making you that amount of money? Oh, do you also have that same amount of money set aside in a bank somewhere else? And oh, they're looking for like 3 levels of collateral. That our response, of course, is if we had those things, we wouldn't come to you for money. So it's crazy. Or here's a wacky one. When we first started the business, we did it in one entity, and then when we saw it was a real business, we created a new entity. Now, it's a really clear through line. I mean, you can see all the numbers, but we couldn't talk to our bank about a simple line of credit until the new entity was 2 years old. Not 1 year and 11 months, not 1 year and 10 months. They couldn't put them two and two together. So there's a whole lot of not thinking going on. There's a lot of just fill in the check boxes, and if you can't fill in the boxes that are impossible to fill in, we don't care. I meet with a lot of, and interestingly, this is, I think, more of a problem with companies who are manufacturing physical products that have actual inventory than, I have a friend who's starting another tech company. He just got a $10 million valuation. He has no thing. There's not a line of code. There's a nothing. Meanwhile, we've got revenue and profits and stuff that could be sold, and people are going, I don't know, that seems a little risky.
Yeah.
So there's a whole sort of mental accounting that goes on as well, where if people want to invest in a company, they say, well, I mean, here's the biggest joke about Colorado. A lot of shoe companies from this town, and a lot of people who've made money in shoes, including Crocs. There's all these companies in Boulder, Colorado, who've made money selling physical products and shoes, who are investing in tech and not in companies like the one that they made all their money from. It's crazy, the whole situation out there.
Have you explored any alternative methods of fundraising, like crowdfunding?
Yeah, we have. In fact, we have some financing. We met a private venture fund. I've been doing my dog and pony show all over the place, and then at a friend's birthday party, as we were leaving, he said, so, how's it going? I said, oh, we're looking to raise some money. He goes, oh, talk to my neighbor. And I said, what do you do? He said, we're a private venture fund. What do you do? I said, we make these shoes. He goes, hey, let's talk. And that's the way it happened, and they are awesome. So they've been a tremendous help. So that was a crazy thing. And crowdfunding has been, it's a tricky one because, we don't necessarily want to tip our hand too far in advance of having product coming to market. So we'd much rather be able to go, ta-da, here it is, than to go, hey, here it is 6 months in advance, and then have it there. We often don't need the money for product development. Right now we need money for inventory, or we need some cash flow if we're going to take a big retail order. We just need a little yeah. So crowdfunding's not quite set up for that. There are some crowdfunding opportunities specifically for what we're doing, where the people who are running those niche crowdfunding sites have a set of hurdles that you need to jump over as well. And for some of them, we don't quite fit in with one of them. One of them argued that they said, well, we think your product could be easily ripped off. So, well, anything could be pretty easily ripped off. Even if there's a patent, there's a way around that. But more importantly, the product isn't just the components of the product and how they're made. There's a whole marketing plan behind it. There's a distribution plan behind it. There's the people behind it. There's a lot more than just the product. And rumor has it there's more than one shoe company in the world, more than one clothing company in the world, more than one any company in the world. So competition, my experience is that it just does this for everybody. And besides, by the time we're at a point where someone, like look at Crocs as an example, easy thing to rip off, and it happened. Once they were at $300 million, once they'd already proven the point so much that people went, oh, we got to get in on this. So by the time that someone might rip us off, the odds are pretty good that we would have already paid off the investors 100-fold. So it was an interesting argument that we obviously didn't agree to, but we didn't get the opportunity to go to the crowd and let them decide if it made sense to them or not. So crowdfunding is an interesting vehicle. People need to be very careful about it. I'm actually involved in a crowdfunding project right now, a software project that I'm helping with, and we're doing it for a number of reasons that fit with that company. But keep in mind, if you're doing Kickstarter, you're giving up about 10%. You've got to do a lot of work in advance of the product of the launch. I mean, it's not as simple as, hey, I'm just gonna. It's not like, hey, I got a bar and I got a stage. Let's do a show. It's really, it's an ordeal, and people don't know the statistics that out of the projects that do get funded with crowdfunding, 80% of the money that went into those projects came from basically friends and family, from the person's original network, not from something exploding and going crazy. So the fantasy that you're going to be the next Pebble and look to raise, a couple of tens of thousands and get a couple of million, again, we see the outliers and go, that's going to be me. And it's like, well, maybe, but I wouldn't bank on it.
I got you.
So there are some interesting things going on, and we're exploring, as we should be, we're exploring all of them because you just never know.
Excellent. Well done. So final question is, with all the things that you're doing and so on, do you get to run every day?
It is one of the great ironies. My training has dropped down quite a bit. So, I never run every day because I'm a sprinter. So on a good week, I can get 3 days in, and only one of those is a real fast day. The others are sort of tempo days or technique days. And then I lift. That actually I do on a daily basis. So I'm doing just enough to keep myself content, but not enough to be really happy. So I've sort of missed the bulk of this particular season. I had a race last week that went well, got a couple more races coming up the next few weeks, but I don't have enough training under my belt that I feel really, I turned 50 last year, so 50-50, and they do 5-year age bracket. So I'm at the beginning of my age group at 51 right now, and I'm sadly not making the best use of being the youngest guy in my age group. So we'll hopefully, I'll hopefully take care of that in 4 more years when I turn 55.
All right, Stephen, thank you so much. I really, really greatly appreciate your time. And I wish you all the luck in the world.
Thanks. I'll see you on Twitter on Friday nights.
Yeah, you probably will. And we'll probably wind up buying some of your shoes as well.
Great. Well, I know a guy who knows a guy. He'll help you out.